So, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us in the 25th Above and Beyond Community Hangout. Today, we'll be discussing how we can measure impact in our startups, something that is very important, and we think that the impact community needs to share with other startups in the ecosystem, so we have a lot to learn today. But before we go to that conversation, I want to talk to you about our upcoming Startups and Investment Matching. So it's an event that is going to take place in Porto, and that will put together investors and startups. If you're looking for investment or if you're looking for partners, co-founders, you should join us. So you can just go to the website simconf.com and register your startup or yourself. We're also doing a showcase with the startups that have gained the vouchers for startups from PRR. So if you want to know the projects that gain this voucher, you can also connect with us in the many districts that we're going to be at. The next stops will be Beja, Faro, Madeira, and Açores. You can connect with the startups and also investors in the regions. Also, as we speak, the registrations for the Business Abroad program are still ongoing. If you're scaling your startup or if you're looking to internationalize, we still have the applications open for you to consider going to Spain, France, Toronto, and Brazil. So if you want to join conferences in these regions or are planning to expand to these countries, you can also join this program for free. And the subject that brings us here today is how we can measure impact. Today in our panel we have Nuno Carvalho, Financial Manager at B2E Collab in Porto. And in Lisboa, Rita Casemiro, Partner at Maze Impact. Maud Schengen, did I say it right? Shahen, okay. Co-founder at Root Sustainability. And Ricardo Pimentel, Impact Investor at Fundação AGAs. And moderating the conversation we'll have in Porto, Pedro Fragoso Lopes, founder and CEO of Cachupa Creative Studio. I want to thank all of you to be able to join our conversation today and share all your experience and knowledge with us, both here in Lisbon and Porto. And now, to present the startups that will pitch, I will call Marilia Santos to the stage. Thank you.
Hi, Patricia. Hi, everyone here in Porto. I'm so glad that we have a full house today. So to kick off this session, I would like to call in Lisbon, Bernardo Gonçalves, founder of My Polish.
Obrigado. Hi, everyone. I'll have a pointer. Okay, perfect. There you go. How are you feeling today? Good? I'm feeling good as well, but I have a very difficult mission, making democracy available for all, and if possible, make it fun. That seems kind of hard. Well, civic engagement is usually seen as boring, and democracy is dead. This is not true, actually. But it's been 2,500 years old, and it's still hard to engage with young citizens and make them care, convey the power and the importance of voting and participating to the younger generation, make political systems engaging, and generate trust in them. As you can see, global voter turnout is decreasing, and this is a global phenomenon. Let's hope this is not the case in the upcoming Portuguese elections. And public representatives are answering to complaints on social media, communicating on legacy press, struggling to reach out to young citizens, and having 10 meetings to buy the same old participation products with, ironically, very low participation rates. At My Polish, we believe that democracy can be fun. More than 150 public representatives have collaborated and co-created with more than 30,000 young citizens using the My Polish platform, and we deploy games in the classroom that make learning citizenship fun and engaging, and are used at the moment in hundreds of Portuguese classrooms. Youngsters and children have access to practical and fun ways to learn about citizenship, and teachers seem to love it. 99% of teachers are giving these tools a very good evaluation. And we also have seen tangible impact in the territories where we deploy these tools. More than 200 proposals have been implemented following this participation process in different territories. We are seeing also a great increase in competencies with children and youngsters that participate in this program. The autonomy is skyrocketing. Their responsibility towards school is also very tangible. The growth in creativity and especially the awareness about participation channels is also a great gain from participating in this program. Why now? We need new ways to engage. Online discourse is at an all-time high, and we can leverage new tech, especially AI, to support the ideation process. And we need to collectively nurture democracy. And we believe that we are the right team to do so. We started My Polish following a scholarship that was given to us by Startup Portugal, with a prize that was called Startup Portugal Momentum. No, it no longer exists, but I want you to know that it was instrumental, and it was the first step in building a team of 16 people. 13 of these are full-times, and it all started with Startup Portugal, so thank you for that. Why us? We have more than 40 GovTech clients with an average ticket of 10K annually. We see high satisfaction from public representatives and teachers, and we have 185% average growth in annual recurring revenue, and we are currently in 4 countries, Portugal, Spain, Norway, and starting a pilot in Cape Verde. We see a great opportunity in gamifying participation. We believe that every major city will use new tools to engage with children and youngsters and make them participate. And we are building solutions that are scalable to every major European city. So if you want to help us make democracy simple, fun, engaging, and accessible to all, feel free to reach out. I love to work with you. Thank you.
Thank you, Bernardo, for your pitch. So now in Porto, I would like to invite to come to the stage Tiago Lagarteira, co-founder of Pixel Voltaic. Yeah. You can take mine.
Okay. Okay, good afternoon. You give me some alarm. Okay. Where do I need to point this? No? No? It's on, but okay. Now it's working. Thank you. Okay. Good afternoon. First of all, I would like to thank the invitation for being here. This is my first time here. I hope this is not the last one. So, yeah, I am Tiago Lagarteira. I am the co-founder and CEO of Pixel Voltaic. We are an engineering company based in Porto. We are a spin-off from the Faculty of Engineering, and we develop solutions in the field of energy. We are a deep tech startup. And all of us, we know that we are facing a climate crisis and we need to act now to be able to live, let's say, enough good planet for our children and grandchildren. So in this regard, there are some estimations that if we continue the level of emissions that we are facing today, we have left some 800 gigatons of CO2 left to emit. So this means that either we start having, let's say, a negative slope on emissions by 2013, or our target of 1.5 degrees C set in the Paris Agreement will not be possible to reach. So in this regard, hydrogen has been seen as a promising technology, most likely the most flexible one, not the ideal for all the application. And as you can see, in 2020, the global demand for hydrogen was already 80 million tons per year. This is mainly for application like petrochemistry, synthesis of ammonia for fertilizers, and also steel industry. But by 2050, since we have a massive deployment of renewable energy technologies, they are intermittent and fluctuate. So we need a way to store the surplus energy from renewable sources, and hydrogen is definitely the most flexible solution to do this. So the global demand by 2050 is expected to increase to 300 million tons per year. But today, more than 95% of the hydrogen that is produced comes from a process called steam reforming of hydrocarbons. So in this process, per kilogram of hydrogen that we produce, you emit 9 kilograms of CO2. So not sustainable at all. The sustainable solution from the environmental point of view is water electrolysis. This is my PhD. I know a little bit what I'm talking about, but you need 5 times more energy to produce the same amount of hydrogen compared to steam reforming. So at the end, the production cost of hydrogen will be at least 3 to 4 times higher than the fossil hydrogen that we produce today. So our solution, and this is what we are developing at Pixel Voltaic together in the EIC Pathfinder project, is low temperature catalytic methane decomposition. What is this? In this process, we take methane molecule from natural gas, biogas is even better, and you split methane into hydrogen and solid carbon. So this is a reaction that is 100% selective, zero CO2 emissions, and the carbon byproduct, it has a lot of application that we are currently pursuing. So this is a low temperature process, which distinguishes from the competition. For that, we have a patented cyclic regeneration of our reactor, and we have 2 products with commercial value, clean hydrogen and also carbon nanotubes. This is a patented process, of course, and our traction, to be quick, we started in 2018 with another technology. I don't know if I will have the time to present this to you. And in 2020, we applied for EIC Pathfinder project. We secured our consortium 3.5 million euro. For our startup, we are responsible for making the demonstration of the system. We got a little bit over than 300K. So we reached the first milestone. The previous world record before us was 200 hours of a reactor operating continuously. We reached into 2022, 800 hours, and as I speak, early this year, lately into 2023, we reached 5,000 hours, which is already a remarkable time to be considered as an industrially feasible technology. So this is our work for the future. We want to develop a standard size container that is plug and play. So you place this in any plant or in any village that wants to store electricity, and you don't need to convert infrastructures for distributing hydrogen. You can use natural gas, but you use natural gas in a clean way. Okay, so I have 1 minute. Oh, already reached 30 seconds. Okay, just to mention why Pixel Voltaic, it has a little bit to do with hydrogen. We started with another unique technology that was also developed at the University of Porto. This is an hermetic encapsulation of photovoltaic devices that the stability for the 3rd generation of photovoltaic devices is not enough because they get harmful with oxygen and with humidity. And we developed this very nice laser box, which is able to melt glass frits, so nanoparticles of glass. We make this a glue, and we seal this with a laser-assisted sealant, this fancy machine that you see over here. This is something that we are developing in parallel. So, yeah, we have also a track on this technology. This is our team. We are 5 permanent people. We have 2 people working in part-time. And yes, I'm very proud of our team. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Tiago. I feel that we have a lot of content to discuss later on the networking session, which is great. So now, back to Lisbon, I would like to invite to the stage Francisco Miranda, founder of Spot Games.
Hello. Oh, too loud, sorry. Um, how are you feeling? Still awake? Well, I'm the founder of Spot Games. Now it will be a rebranding, so no surprises. It's a Class of Wonders now. It's an ed tech, so I bring a physical book as a joke, but that's what we sell. And maybe you can find this in 1 in 5 schools, public schools in Portugal already, and in Spain, and in India, and Brazil, and Guinea-Bissau, and Mozambique. So it's quite widespread, but still undercover for the ones who don't work with schools. But I'll more about this later. Okay, so this is a half-baked version of our new logo. We work as directly with the Portuguese government and with other partners, so like Casa do Impacto, who maybe invite us. So thank you today for the invitation. So let's start maybe with the problem. Half of students worldwide don't achieve the minimum proficiency levels in reading, writing, and maths. And the big misconception is everybody thinks, at least I did, they're not in school, right? No, wrong. They are in school, the most of them, and they're kind of trapped. 400 million students are really trapped every day in ineffective classrooms that don't give them what they need to, and that's a real problem. That's what we try to tackle. Also, other people try to tackle. That's how the market, in a shift of perspective, the inclusiveness and engagingness of the solutions and the ability to be suited with the school's technology. It's the two axes. You have the normal publishers answered like a book like this one that can reach any school, but it's not that engaging or inclusive. And you have very responsive projects, but they're not quite scalable. The human resource heavy or something that's blocking their growth. So there's a big void. It's kind of our call to adventure that we followed as the opportunity. So there's 200 million students with not achieving these levels that have access to the internet. So that's a big opportunity. So the other way is training more teachers and spending a lot of resources, but maybe there's another solution quicker and more efficient. So that's why we gather like a team of, we call them RECs, Resourceful Education Champions, to answer this call. These are our investors and our partners. That's me, with no teeth. To answer this call. And what did we do? I'm sorry, the video won't pass, but we developed a tool that's a hybrid tool. So that's a shared computer that asks questions about the Book of Magic. And it's the curriculum questions, but disguised as magic. So in years of development and research and with a lot of funds, we were able to develop a turnkey solution that, regardless of the skill of the teacher, can work in any school. An immersive experience for the kids that motivates any kid, regardless of he's more engaged in school or not. A hybrid solution that's no demonization of the gamification or the digital aspect, and to respond to the local curricula. That's very important. So it works like a textbook of a publisher. So that's why we're so widespread now, especially in public schools. The results are pretty impressive in short term. So the motivation to learn increases, the classroom environment, but in 1 year, it really improves the learning outcomes, the retention rate. So it's a really impressive. That's why we partner up with the Portuguese government to give a widespread answer as well. And only in 1 year, it's possible to save these children from educational poverty. That's really our mission. Yeah, and that's, we call ourselves COW, Class of Wonders. It's kind of a Trojan horse of innovation for any classroom. That's where we are. And we believe that with this problem, the technological breakthrough of the internet reaching every school today, and our radical solution, we have a moonshot to aim for, to reach 13 million kids by 2030. That's really our goal regarding our penetration rates normal. And so that's a big market. So how do we tackle the business part? We have three models. We have a B2C, where we call directly to schools, where in Iberia it's mostly like that. We have just local distributors to sell our product. And once we are widespread, we have public tenders where we can answer and have a unified sale or order as you. So we're already have 5% of the market of resources in schools in Portugal, and with the same adoption rates in Spain. We're already expanding to Brazil and India, and we're now in the discussion of big public offers internationally and nationally. We will now focus on the development of more curriculums, mathematics mainly, but also develop and adapt the tools to each need of each geography. Lastly, but very importantly, we always use our network, these resourcial education champions, to invest in us, to open doors. So we always work in a project mentality. So how does it work? There's someone that is an education champion. He can open doors in investment, partnership, talent, and it's like it can be a profit sharing or a revenue sharing, as maybe you will hear later, or a partner in equity. And he receives the legacy, but the money back as well. So it's a sound investment with impact. I think that's the future, as it will be discussed. We will just close the mathematics funding, 800,000 euros. But we have open 2 projects to scale in Spain and to prove the market fit in Brazil. So if is there a rec here, please reach me. Thank you very much. And I think that is all.
Thank you, Francisco. So now to end the pitch session here in Porto, I would like to invite to the stage Catarina Rica, Business Development Manager at Inclita Seaweed Solutions.
Hello, everyone. My name is Catarina Rica, as you told, Business Development Manager at Inclita Seaweed Solution. Let me start by something that I believe connects us all, the sea, either by the history of maritime explorations or the bedtime stories that we tell to our kids about mythical sea creatures, or about that nod about saying, hey, eat your fish, it's good for you. But when you think of it, actually, seaweed is never the hero of this story. And we are here to change that narrative. So welcome to the success story of ISS. ISS is a Portuguese marine biotech company. This was born from the passion of 2 amazing women who have worked for over 2 decades on applied science and exploring what the capacities and the applications of seaweed. This work was done while researching and specializing in green and sustainable methodologies of extraction of the bioactives in seaweed, always with an underlying biorefinery concept. Well, over the years, they kind of said that academia was not big enough for them, so they wanted to step out into the business world. And so they did. In 2018, and Catarina Guedes, with other 2 amazing founders, took the leap, and they were ready to make waves globally. Apart from their passion from seaweed, there's something that is also very interesting. So the seaweed market is not expanding, it's actually thriving. And this has to do with the final consumer's demand for an actual alternative, more sustainable ingredients. And they actually, the growth of the awareness that seaweed can today be one of that alternatives. In the last couple of years, a lot of reports have been emerging. This specific one is from the Global Seaweed Report in 2023. It is known today that the compound annual growth for the seaweed market, alongside the productions of seaweed, will be growing at least nearly to 18%. Again, seaweed is not a bad biomaterial either. It's a very cool biomass, either sustainably harvested from the sea itself or from controlled aquaculture facilities. Seaweed does not compete for arable land for harvesters that actually need the seaweed to grow, the arable land to grow. It doesn't need fresh water either to grow. And at this moment, it's the biological planet's best ally. I said this after listening to you, but it is the biological planet's best ally in CO2 absorption. Our success path is not possible without an actual network to support us. So this is what we do. We unite entities from different sectors on this green and blue path, either from the scientific community that supports us in terms of claims, either strategically and what we think is the best positioning in the market, and all the way to the supply chain. Because for us, what is important is to have a traceable and transparent path to show to our clients. And speaking of them, what can our clients expect from us? They can expect two business models to work with. One of them is acquiring directly the ingredients that we already have in our portfolio. This ranges for specifically 3 different verticals: cosmetics, nutraceuticals, pet care, and now more and more on food and beverage as well. Or they can work on us in a more consultancy-like kind of way. This can either be partnering up with a client in order to give them a process for seaweed valorization, either from the seaweed in itself or from the biomass that rests from other extractions. Or we can even get to the point that we will deliver a custom ingredients to our clients. And at the core of it all, it's sustainability. It's not just one of our values, it's actually who we are. Alongside innovation, collaboration, and also transparency, this is what we are aiming to bring a company that is not only sustainable as a company, but actually will make also the planet thrive. And this never, ever compromising what is our commitment to either our collaborators, our team of 10 already, to our partners, to our clients, and if we can, at the end of the day, make the society a little bit fairer than it is today, we will have a win. So in a nutshell, this is our commitment. ISS wants to bring from the sea into the surface the best seaweeds with which we can research, develop, and produce today's best ingredients. And who knows, maybe tomorrow make finally seaweed the hero of tomorrow's sale. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Catarina. I feel like I always liked seaweed, now I like it more. So many applications. So now to continue with our session today, we just wrap up the pitch session, but now we go straight to our panelists. So in Lisbon, can we go back to Lisbon, please? In Lisbon, I would like to invite to the stage Rita Casemiro, partner at Maize Impact, Maud Shaihen, I think I did it right, co-founder of Roots Sustainability, Ricardo Pimentel, impact investor at Fundação AGEAS, and now in Porto, Nuno Carvalho, financial manager at B2E Collab, and our moderator in Porto, Pedro Fragoso Lopes, founder and CEO of Cachupa Creative Studio.
Thank you very much for the introduction. Hello, Lisbon.
Hello.
How are you feeling there? Good. Well, house is full. So, let me take my notes out. I'm a little bit nervous because it's my first time, so please be gentle. So, I'm Pedro. I'll be host this panel. I'm the CEO and founder of Cachupa Creative Studio, a studio that develops design and multimedia for social innovation institutions, organizations. As we know, we are talking about impact and how do we measure impact. So, first of all, I would like to everyone to know about a little bit about us. So I will ask for, let's say, a pitch, like 1 minute pitch for each one of you, if it's okay, tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do at your company, organization, and what is about your organization. Maybe start with Rita.
Hello, everyone. Hi, Port. Very nice to be here. Thank you for the invitation. Oh, okay. Cool. So, Maze is an impact investment company. We are Portuguese, based in Lisbon, but our work is mainly at a European level. Basically, what we do is to try to support the creation and the growth of solutions that tackle the big social and environmental challenges that we all face, right? And we do it through the use of a toolbox. It's a set of tools that exist, that we work with, that may be, both financial, non-financial, that may be useful to these to create solutions, such as venture capital is one of them. So we manage a fund, we manage a smaller vehicle, pre-seeds to support entrepreneurs grow, and start their journey. We do impact advisory with both startups, entrepreneurs, but also with corporates, foundations, public sector. We do outcomes-based commissioning type of projects. We have like a platform which helps scale some of our projects. So as you see, the toolbox, as we call it, has a diverse range of applications, and basically the approach is that whatever stakeholder that wants to contribute to the development of these solutions can come in, and we help them, let's say, navigate through the best approach that we have. And within the different stakeholders, there's a lot of synergies that happens, hence why our decision of, having this toolbox instead of just focusing in one. It's because for us it makes a lot of sense to be as diversified in the approach. But happy to elaborate later.
Thank you. Mor?
Yeah. So hi, my name is Maud. I'm currently living in Maud. Yeah, my last name is Geijen, but I don't expect anyone to say it right today. It's fine. Maud is fine. I'm 33 years old. I'm living in Lisbon. I'm originally from the Netherlands. And I think about 2 years ago, Gijs de Mol and I, my co-founder, we started Root Sustainability. And with Root, we aim to revolutionize life cycle assessment by ensuring accessibility at scale and allowing everyone to actually use it. For the people that are new to life cycle assessment, it's basically the environmental assessment of a product from the moment you extract the materials from the ground up until the moment the product is treated for waste or recycled. With our platform, we aim to empower product companies to actually not only meet compliance standards, but actually drive growth while minimizing their environmental impact. And I will elaborate more later, but that's in a nutshell it.
Okay. Ricardo?
Thank you, Pedro. Thank you, Startup Portugal, for the invite. So I'm glad it's a minute because I can talk more about the foundation than me, because I always hate doing that. But I'm Ricardo Pimentel, originally from Brazil. I work as an impact investor at Fundação Agias, which is the corporate foundation for Grupo Agias Portugal. Our strategy, the foundation has existed since 1998, but our strategy shifted in 2021. Mainly recognizing that specifically in the social sector in Portugal, because we act within the Portuguese landscape, there was a lack of financing and lack of non-financial support for social purpose organizations, be it for-profit or non-profit, trying to scale their solutions nationally. There's a lot of reasons for that, but basically we recognized there was a gap in the market, and that's what we're trying to address. Knowing that we also can't help everything because we have limited resources, unfortunately, is we focused on 3 social problems, the ones that we felt we had more additionality as investors, and that's health, aging, and social exclusion. Within that, specifically, people with a physical or cognitive impairment. And we do, just like Rita said, we have a couple of instruments that we use to do that: corporate volunteering, capacity building, social investment or traditional grant making, and impact investing, where we use a range of financial instruments as well to make those investments. And I think that's
Thank
about
you.
a bit over a minute, but
Okay. Back to Porto. Nuno.
So, my name is Nuno. I'm the finance manager of B2E Collab. It's the Blue Bioeconomy Collab. We are a private non-profit associations that gathers universities, research centers, and private companies. And our major goal is to grow the blue bioeconomy sector. And our major actuation areas are aquaculture, living marine resources, and also marine biotechnology. And those the key.
Okay, thank you very much. So about Q&A, we'll do a final. In the end, at the end, we'll do Q&A if you want. Everyone has some questions. To begin, let's start about the essence of this conversation. That is about impact. What is impact? Why is it important to measure it? So Rita, can you tell us a little bit more about this importance, and why is it important also for the projects you support at Maze?
Sure. So starting from the definition, impact is basically, or the way we see it, right? Social impact, environmental impact is when there's a problem and you try to change the outcomes and create a positive change into and decrease the level of the problem, basically, in a way. And for us at Maze, as an impact investment company, impact is and we really believe in this, is one of the biggest economic opportunities of our times. Few as in, 10 years ago, 20 years ago, impact was still seen a lot as philanthropy. But today we know, and I think that it's really, especially in 2024, it's really common sense, especially from an environmental point of view, that it is absolutely necessary that impact becomes, enters the agenda of the economy as a whole, right? So it's definitely something that we need to do. From an environmental point of view, it's quite obvious. From a social point of view, I think it's also something that is becoming more and more of a topic. So the market can be seen as a way of changing social problems, of addressing social inclusion, of decreasing environmental issues by becoming more sustainable. And for us, this is the relevance of impact. It's a huge opportunity, and what we try to do is to show, well, on the one hand, for entrepreneurs, we try to, like Mouth, and here in this panel here in Lisbon, it's nice because we're all connected. Fundação AGAs is an investor in MazeX. MazeX has invested, which is the small vehicle of investment for founders. MazeX has invested in Roots. And basically what we try with founders, there's a lot of drive, but we try to just be helpful and help as much as we can. But with the other type of stakeholders that exist in the market, we really try to, be it corporates, foundations, as I was saying, the public sector, we try to support them seeing the, experimenting new approaches in the market from an economic point of view, testing new levels of incentives, because markets are all about the game of incentives, like changing the perception of incentives, right? Like, what is the level of value that I can create, to whom, who perceives this as a valuable thing, how much can I charge? So all of this has a lot of potential, and there's a lot of instruments that we can create from a financial point of view, but also non-financial. So for us, the impact is a huge opportunity from a concept point of view, from an economic point of view. And then in practical terms, we feel that there's, with a creativity approach, there's a lot of room for us to test new approaches in engaging different types of stakeholders in the market.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I think that you're touching a point that I think that reaches all here in this panel, that we all have impact on what we do because we help others to reach more impact, but we also have our own impact. Maud, the question for you is, how do you communicate, and now touching a bit of my field, communication on social impact, how do you communicate the impact that root sustainability have, and if you also communicate the impact of your clients, the ones that get the assessment, because actually assessment is communicating impact, right?
Yeah, I think our case is super clear. Like, what is impact? In our case, it's environmental impact, and we quantify it. So it's like math. So there's nothing to question about it. When you talk about Roots' impact, that's indirect right now, because we measure impact of companies and we help them to reduce that impact, and that is one-to-one the value we add, I would say. Very shortly answered, if that is an answer to your question.
Very
yes.
Dutch.
I like
so,
it.
but you also have your own means of communication, like if I go to your website, do I know in result in resume how much did you help others to
So like an amount or so, like that's obviously the goal, but we're still startups, so we're starting here. But obviously, in the end, what we would like to do is to come up with some impact measures or metrics that we can actually communicate. Hey, because we exist as Root, this is the impact we've made on the world through helping those companies reduce impact. Right now, I would say in general, the impact might be, but it's not quantified, it's not measurable yet, is that we want to revolutionize a market that's been there for ages, that's currently not accessible for lots of product companies. So our direct impact, you could argue, is that we make that accessible for product companies to actually start measuring their own impact and act upon it.
Yeah. So actually, I think that giving impact assessments to clients or making our own impact assessments, we are also transmitting some kind of transparency, and this is also a need. Now it's like a new need, I think. So Inês Sequeira wrote on her article for Startup last week that implementing an impact measurement and evaluation system brings advantages such as competitive differentiation, access of funding, identification of new business opportunities, greater efficiency and credibility. But the data culture is still timid, which analyzes the idea of lack of transparency in various sectors of the society. Nuno, are we witnessing a change in the way that new companies, organizations, projects are thought? Are we going to a more impact-driven economy rather than profit-driven economy in order to appear more friendly, more human, more ecological?
Yes, I think it has been a change in the last years. And now companies, also because, and you touched that part in your observation, because nowadays our clients and also our investors, they pretend to invest and pretend to buy products and services from companies that share their own goals for the society. So we need to be oriented to our clients and to our investors, okay? Because we need to share the same values. And we also have nowadays more regulation to mitigate the impact, social impact, environmental impact from governments and also from other institutions. So I think yes, nowadays companies need to be more concerned about the impacts they are creating in society or at the other levels, because it is very important, and not only by short term but also in the long term. Okay, it is important to our clients, to our investors, and also to the regulation that have been implemented by governments or other entities.
Do you also feel this need of, and this question is for you in Lisbon as well, the need that, and for investors as well, the need that not only need to make money to be sustainable for their own project, but also be impactful, sustainable. I'm not saying this correctly, but I don't know if you get the idea. To be sustainably impactful, that might be the.
So nowadays, it doesn't matter only the finance profit, okay, only to maximize the profit, but we also need to be concerned about other impacts like social impacts and environmental impacts, I think.
Lisbon, any thoughts on this?
I think everyone in the room, or at least in the panel, is a bit biased as well, because obviously we're much more exposed to it and we see it much more often than maybe what's going on. I definitely think for talent retention, for example, there's been a shift in communication, both on how small startups or larger corporates communicate their impact or communicate what they're doing. However, I still think if you look at public markets, for example, obviously there's a lot of frameworks for reporting and measuring, but I don't feel that in that where the money is moved in the larger circles that has gotten there yet. I definitely think there's a shift, especially when we're talking about early stage companies and maybe private markets. But in the public markets, I think just the reward mechanism and how it's structured, how it's fast responses, and sometimes impact takes, as Maud said, it takes years to measure. Normally, we're not even measuring impact when we say impact. We're measuring proxies that we assume that will lead to that impact. And I think it's also important when we communicate that we're transparent about what are those assumptions that we're using. We're measuring proxies, what's the assumption for the impact, because that has to be validated and confirmed over time with metrics.
Maybe I can just complement what Ricardo is saying, because I think it's very relevant. Is that okay? Good.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, sorry. Cool. Basically, when we think about like startups and the creation of innovation, because that's basically what we need, right? We need to create new models, try to create new solutions. There is, in the beginning, in the initial phase of the projects, there's an intention of positive impact, right? That's why we believe in them, and that's why we then go for them and try to grow them. However, it's nothing but a belief. It's a narrative. It's a theory. That's why it's called like the theory of change, or an impact thesis. It's an idea. We believe in it, and then there's a whole process that we need to test as the project, the company grows. Eventually, it becomes into like the proper measurement. But for example, we sometimes say it, right? We are not in the business of harvesting impact, so measuring, communicating big numbers. We might, because we act more in the early stages of these companies. We are in the businesses of seeding impact, and that many times is difficult to measure, it's difficult to communicate, and we face this challenge pretty much every day. It's difficult for us to report, to measure, but and to communicate exactly the dimensions of what we do. But we've been throughout the years feeling more and more comfortable with that, because it's about the way we justify, for example, justify the reasons for our investments. We invested in Roots not because of the numbers they had at the time of our investment, but because of what we believe they can reach. It made a lot of sense. They had numbers, the traction, right, that investors ask, like show us something, makes us believe in what you believe, but it's not necessarily numbers in terms of impact, positive impact created. And we now are working with them to try to make it happen. And I think it is totally okay, and in our case, and Pedro, maybe I'm getting too much ahead of myself, but
so you're about to reach where I want to go next. So
should I stop or should I continue?
You're touching about the metrics, and I want to go to the ESGs, SDGs, for instance. So you can continue, and then I'll get the rest of the question.
Okay, cool. So I'll just talk about like how we at Maze, in this particular context, right, of early stage companies and projects, how we address, how we communicate the impact of our work and the work of those that we work with. We use a framework. There are many frameworks. There's a lot of attempts for standardization, and it's fair enough. It's very necessary, especially when we, like Ricardo was saying, like public companies, bigger companies, the stock market, like we need standardization. It's a huge challenge in itself, but I'll leave it because like I'll just focus on the early stage, which is a different type of challenge. And in this particular case, what we use is a tool called Impact Management Project. You can search, there are many. And basically what it has is 5 dimensions, so 5, let's say, questions that we should answer. The what impact you're doing, so what positive change, what is the outcome, the change, the 1 or 2 like big changes that you're trying to do. So what are the indicators that you're going to measure? The who, what type of beneficiary, is it the planet or is it a social group? Like, can you define that they are underserved, hence why the relevance of your solution? The how much, what is your approach towards this problem? Are you like scaling the approach, or are you going very deep on like changing the lives of those people, let's say, or the planet? And then try to address as well the contribution. So given the status quo of the market, what are you adding as a new approach? What's your contribution? So if you didn't exist, what would be the baseline? What would happen anyway? And what can you add on top? And the risks, the impact risks. Because we know that even though we are full of good intentions, sometimes like our solutions create problems, like more problems. And that's okay, as long as we are aware of them and we try to monitor. And in this particular case, in our situation, we use this. We usually like simplify a one-pager. We include, Pedro, the SDGs for like, because it's a nice standardized tool to help us, recognize what areas are we working on. And it's a way that we found to kind of explain why there is impact for us and what are we trying to do. And then we use the indicators, the what that I was talking about to see the progress of that company and of the scaling of impact. So I think it's a good example of like at least how we do it. And we try to take this topic as light as possible and take the burden. It's very important that we measure. It's very important that we are aware of it, but understanding that it's, once you start, there's nothing to measure, and that's okay, at least for me.
Yeah. So you were saying in the beginning that there's like this evolution in the society about the notion of the importance of measuring impact, and talking about not the SDGs, the ESGs, which is something that can be related not always to the outside, to the outcome of the product of our company, the product or the service, but also to the inside. Is it also, and this is also a question for Maud and Nuno, is it also important to have a sustainable product, an impactful product, but also be truthful to our mission, let's say, in the world, to treat well our workers, to I don't know, go buy electrical cars or electrical bicycles to work, using public transportations, to be truthful. And this is also important to communicate, and this can also be considered impact. Nuno?
Yes, I think because, for example, we on B2E last year we have implemented gender equity plan. So we are we pay attention to these kind of themes, and they are important for us. And this plan will be analyzed every year, and we try to take measures that are aligned with our mission also. And because P2E Collab works mostly with funding programs, what we do, it's always communicated, okay, because it's an obligation of the funding programs. We always communicate our knowledge development, our products, our services, our processes, because it's an obligation of the funding programs. We try to bring to our collab the importance of the impact, okay? Mostly the social and the environmental impact, because the financial impact it's mostly decided by our direction, okay?
Maud?
Yeah. So obviously, I think it makes sense to practice what you preach, right? For instance, we are very much, when you talk about ESG, very much focused on the E. So when your own startup very much revolves around a certain sustainability impactful topic, very honestly, sometimes you forget about the other things. For instance, we have a team of only men and me. So in terms of diversity, we're not scoring very high yet. But I think that you can only solve one problem at a time. And once again, already like work day and night on a very specific problem like environmental impact, it might be okay as well to just very highly communicate about that and not try to like be the best at everything you do when it comes to ESG or so.
Okay. We are reaching my final question, the sixth question, and it's about this. It's about this feel that we all do something to make this world a better place, and my question is, I will ask you a final statement, let's say, regarding these concerns on how can we be more impactful in our own thing, like this, like if we are finally promoting the acting local to think global and make the world. Are we playing our own piece? And it's important to communicate impact, and it's important to do impactful, have an impactful product. Please help me on this. I'm not sure if you get the. No?
I think I can try and take it, Pedro. So I'm going to talk going from that local to global context. I'm going to talk more at a smaller micro scale, because at Nagia's Foundation we're focused in Portugal, but I think the lessons probably replicate. There's a lot of social entrepreneurs or startups that do a really good job at solving a problem locally, or solving the neighborhood's issue or the town's issue. But then when you look at scaling, or when you're looking at the problem more macro, if you want to influence, sometimes the reasons are much more systemic than what a single company or a single organization can do. So for example, if we're a startup that's working in life cycle assessment, obviously you can't be involved in the entire value chain. You have to know what the problem is you're trying to solve, how you relate to other players, but you also have to know what's your value proposition and what can you contribute specifically in what part of the chain. So I think it's important that when we look at global problems or the whole problem, we look, okay, what can we do well, and how can we communicate with the players around us? It's the same thing that large corporates do when, I don't know, they make a candy bar. They don't make, sometimes they have vertical integration, but there's always a step in the chain where they have to rely on partners, they have to rely on communication, they have to rely on distribution, and it's okay not to be an owner of the entire thing, but you have to understand how you fit into different players. And I think, sorry.
No, go ahead, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, I think it's something that's more integrated in the business world, but in the social economy landscape, sometimes it's very well integrated and sometimes there's a lack of communication. So that's a challenge posed here.
Yeah, maybe if I can add something to that, I think to make it very practical, concrete, for instance, the case you mentioned, measuring life cycle assessment, it obviously like contains the whole supply chain. We very much struggle with the not transparent supply chains at the moment. But that's not the problem we are gonna solve, because that's a whole different company. So but we do need it in order to be able to measure the proper life cycle assessment of a product. So for us to like succeed in this field, we have to partner up with various companies that make supply chains transparent in the fashion industry, in the building industry, etc. So I think it's a very, very valid point you were making here. We struggle with it too.
Are we like influencers of the big techs, for instance, to be more sustainable? Are we? Again, I think that this direction that we are going, and even the EU last year, I think, to implement the new report on ESGs, for instance, will also increase the I don't know much about the ESGs, but something that I heard about it is if some company has some rate on ESGs, will have more advantages for going to the stock market, for instance. Not sure if this is the right information, but do we need more of this incentives? Sorry, to change the thinking of the big companies.
Yeah, I definitely think we need more pressure, let's say from the outside, whether it's regulations coming up. I think there's lots of at the moment, or customers demanding from retailers for their products to be more sustainable or have less impact, material impact whatsoever. But also I think there's a big change in banks, for instance. They do now provide loans only to companies that actually act upon their sustainability, or there's a whole thing out there that like you can actually win tenders once you do a product footprint declaration. So there, I think that really does help getting this movement going. But in the end, I think everyone knows it's inevitable and they rather start sooner, start now than later.
Any thoughts here? Lee?
Yeah, I'm happy to. Yeah, I think as of now, like in where we are as a society, I think it's fair that we say there are two types of companies. Eventually, there's going to be one, I hope. But there's two types. There's what we call the impact companies, those that have what we call the lockstep model. So they exist to solve a specific social, environmental problem, right? And that's what we're trying to do once they are created. And then there is the mainstream market, which is not necessarily trying to tackle a particular social or environmental problem. They are, they have a place in the economy. We all take advantage of them. We would not necessarily categorize them as an impact company, okay? So for the sake of simplification, we'll just say that these two types. The first type, I've talked already. I think they serve a purpose as they grow. To give you a very particular example, a very nice case of an impact investment company, one of the first deals that existed in the UK was by one of the first impact funds was Fitness Hut, okay, the gyms. At the time, it was, a gym that has a very concrete, they were trying to tackle something very particular, which was access to well-being through exercise, nutritionists, like all the package that the gym can offer. Because a lot of people couldn't afford the options that existed. Today, maybe we look at Fitness Hut as, it's not necessarily an impact company, it's a normal company. There's so many low-cost gyms. And that's great because, once a company starts, it's innovation, it's a new thing, like it's impact, and we're trying to tackle. As it grows, like maybe they just create a mainstream market which is more accessible. It just, conquered its space. Once a company is in that level, it's very important. That's why the ESG comes in, and it's so relevant to everyone, to all kinds of companies, but especially to these more mainstream ones, because companies have a very relevant role, many roles in society. They are employers. They take care, they influence, they impact the well-being of people, of citizens, the employers. They receive investment, especially if they're in the stock market, so from all of us, right? All of us have our money like applied, and we make investments. So, they influence us, and their economical choices and the good or bad results of them as investments impact our well-beings. The way they manage material, the way they have their production facilities, all of that. So from an environmental point of view, how they manage their waste, how they manage their energy consumption will impact us all as well. So it's really, really important that a company takes care of their environmental footprint, their social aspects, so contribution in society, to make sure that they have good types of employment opportunities, they are fair, equality, all of these things. And then the governance aspect, right? How transparent is a company? So, because a company influences all, like us all, and the economy in so many ways. And that's what I think we as a society have reached. We've understood the impact that companies were creating, because a few years ago, I don't think the association between problems and what companies were doing was so clear as it is now. There's a lot of responsibility put on companies, on bigger companies especially, and it's a great thing, because that's how we are all touched and all impacted. And we all have different hats that we wear, as I was saying. We are employees, we are investors, we are consumers, we are voters, citizens that vote. So we should ensure and really wear these hats in every chance that we have, with strong responsibility, because we should have our own ESG policy, like individual, which will then have a domino effect, I would say, in society. So I see it a bit like this.
Sounds good. Sounds like we also, like my Polish has an app for democracy. We need also an app for ESGs, individual ESGs. I have here one question. I don't know if there are any question. If there is any question, there is. Sorry. Any questions in Lisbon?
We have some questions from our online viewers. So, but you can start in Porto, maybe.
Hi, online viewers. Sorry, I excluded you in the beginning. So I don't know. I will take preference for Porto right now. Sorry, Lisbon.
Okay.
So one question over here. I don't know if they have the mic to them, or I just give mine. Yeah.
So there.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Tomás. I'm a lawyer, and I practice law since 2002. And I've seen companies be incorporated and go broke many times. And in this discussion, I tend to agree with many points, but one thing that I don't see very clearly is the fact that I cannot dissociate profitability and social impact or environmental impact when we're talking about private companies. And I see that there could be a huge impact if we could make companies profitable first and understand how big that is and how important that is for the economy. If we consider that 90% of startups will fail, and they will fail between the second and the fifth year of operation, I could not imagine how many millions of euros or pounds or dollars would be wasted that could be used otherwise. So how do you see the effect and the almost requirement of profitability in respect to the intention or the importance of also causing a social or an environmental impact. I see profitability comes first, and if there's no profitability, if there's no profit, there won't be any sort of impact, and this will just be an empty discussion. So how do we make impactful companies also profitable, and how can we sell profit and long-standing result for investors? I think this is a key question, and I would like a few comments and insights out of this.
Anyone in Lisbon?
I think everyone in the panel agrees that profits are important. Just for a bit of context, I think, I don't know the exact number, but probably 80 to 90% of small, medium companies or private companies don't receive venture capital funding. So either they're profitable, or they have someone that's putting in the money, or they're getting it from somewhere. So I think it's important to understand as well that even in the ecosystem itself, it's not something about impact. In normal venture capital, companies are invested in and they fail. I think the important thing that we understand is that without profits, you will never be sustainable long term, and that's very, very important. Or profits or break even or something along those lines. But I also think it's healthy that those people are failing. If obviously the investors are putting in those money and they're taking the risk on that company, but if that company isn't reaching a product market fit, if it's not being profitable, if it's not generating sales, it should fail. I think that's something that's healthy in the ecosystem and something we can't avoid, not because we're not being in impact, it's not something we can avoid. Being in venture capital or being in small, medium companies, it's something that's unavoidable, but I think that's healthy for the ecosystem.
I have two notes on this. One is related to science. I'm doing a PhD, and I learned that failing is also a result, so no one else will fail again. And the other point is something that we learn when we do ES, Social Business School Impact Bootcamp. That the first thing that we learn is social businesses are meant to exist to solve a problem, and since they solve the problem, they should finish. They should end, and let's go to another problem. Let's solve another problem. So these are another way to see failure, let's say. Sorry, let me go to Lisbon right now. And we also have online.
I'm happy just to comment on something. You know, should I? Yeah, just to acknowledge that, and I think the question is super relevant. But I think the question also has a bias in a way from like a for-profit investor or almost like a VC approach, which is fair enough. And in those cases, there are rules of the game, let's say, right? It's very important. And then, of course, the decisions then are done and are taken. And the risk is a part of it as well. But it's obvious that in VC, it's very important to look at the size of the market, to look at, you know, the foundations of the business model, the promise of it, let's say, or the potential that it may have. However, there are in the market many other types of funding available, let's say, which doesn't necessarily brings such a strong emphasis on profitability right away as a starting point. And this is relevant, and so we can say that there's a spectrum of financial instruments, let's say, and we know this grants is one that we're all familiar with. The grants, we don't need to return them. They serve a very relevant purpose because not everything that needs to be created, that needs to be worked on, that needs to be invented, can be profitable right away. And that has value as well. Even if that project, that company goes bankrupt, we shouldn't see this, and I know it's, you know, I'm in a very easy place to talk, but we shouldn't see bankruptcy as a failure, like necessarily, as long as there's a proper processing of, the learnings, and we should acknowledge that many times there's something that can be built on top of that. And we know that many times companies fail because they went short of money. They ran out of money, right? And now they cannot pay salaries, and the founders go back to not stage 0. They are in stage 1, so they get, or stage 2 or whatever. They have to unfortunately let go of their teams, but many times when they are mission driven, they get on track again, and they reorganize, they learn, they strategize a new way, and they go back again. So just to completely acknowledge the importance of profitability, and it's very relevant, especially in VC. But if we just focus on it, we may be too narrow when we think about the level of innovation that we need to address the big problems that we have today and that we face today.
For going, just saying this sentence, I don't know who said that, but the passion for destruction is also creative joy. So, which also leads to, if something fails, it's always a new opportunity to restart and to think another thing. Lisbon, we have questions there.
Okay.
5 minutes there.
Okay, thank you. I'll try to be short. When we talk about measuring impact, mainly in social entrepreneurship, because environmental issues are a different ballgame, I believe. It's more material to when we measure impact, but we can go different ways. We can ask about satisfaction. We can measure satisfaction. We can ask how is it today, and then after the treatment, how is it at that point in time. And we can even be more rigorous, let's say, by setting control groups and running a difference in differences approach to measure our impact against the baseline. And this is very in line with the contribution part of the IMP framework. And my question is basically, how important is it for the ecosystem to go further in the quality of the impact measurement? And a second question would be, what do you think is the role of universities on this game? Because even to run a simple econometrical model, we need different sources of data, and that sometimes is very hard for social entrepreneurs to gather high quality data that is good enough to fit a simple econometrical model. So I believe there is a gap between how universities are creating their outputs academically and how what social entrepreneurs can gather as inputs to measure impact. So how do you think, what do you think will be the next steps in the ecosystem to improve the quality of impact measurement? Thank you.
I'm happy to go. So it's super relevant, and I would love to hear your opinion, Bernardo and Francisco, especially. Because you have your practical experience and you've been facing the challenges of it firsthand. My perspective is, when you have a business or company project that has a direct-to-consumer business model, it's selling to consumers directly, and they are willing to pay for it. It is very important to measure impact, but the fact that there is recurrence on the purchase of that particular service or good tells you already that you're adding value. So I would say that it's an easier game there. In the case of MyPolis and Spot games, House of Wonders, where the direct-to-consumer doesn't really happen, right? You need to have other types of business models. You either sell it to schools or to municipalities or entities that need to know that that solution is relevant to whomever they are serving or representing, students or citizens. And in those cases, it becomes more challenging, and you really need to take it more seriously. The way I see it is solutions need to test, and universities, there are sophisticated methodology, or less sophisticated, but there are methodological methodology, apologies for the redundancy, that you need to follow to assess how, an intervention, what is the impact that an intervention is having in someone from a theoretical point of view, but in practice, right? But you can test it in a sample of people. And depending on the stage of the companies or the organizations, you can have a sample that is relevant to your current stage. If you grow 10x, maybe that study that you did when you were today is not so relevant anymore because a lot of circumstances changes. Maybe then it's relevant for you to conduct another study with new statistical characteristics that are more adequate to that stage. But I would say, for me, it's good enough that you have, a proof that, of the impact that your intervention has in practice, and that you then measure number of people that are using your solution, and are ideally using it in a recurrent way. Sorry. Right? Even if they are not paying for it, the fact that they keep using it and how much they use it, how long they use it, metrics adjust to the particular solutions, they tells us a lot as well. So there's two types of impact measurement, right? There's a scientific one that needs to be redone at the different stages of the solutions, also because they iterate. You're never the same, you just keep evolving, and MyPods and House of Wonders have been changing a lot, I can see. And so you need to adapt that proof, but then you can also show how the market reacts to whatever you're offering, if it's relevant as well, not only from a well-being point of view, but if people actually want to use it, so that, to validate that it's a good option to whomever is paying for that.
Okay, they told me here that we have still one more question. Okay.
So now putting things a little bit more on the environmental sustainability, which was what brought me here at the first place. Not only, of course, but Maud, what you said about your work is very relevant to us. What you talked about, life assessment, is something that we deal with every day, and it's super easy when you are in a company such as ISS to feel something that is very similar to the imposter syndrome, because we do our best. We have the best practices. We know that we make things the right way, in the most sustainable way, but at the end of the day, we drive to work. We were talking about that a little bit earlier today. But in a way, and this is a question I believe specific for Mart at this moment. Do you believe that your product, you say you cannot do anything, and I'm with you on this, but can a company such as ISS, by using your product, can diminish not only the impact directly from the production and from the services that we make, but around everything that the team does, so this imposter syndrome kind of goes a little bit down, and the impact that we have overall in total is a better impact.
Just to make it clear, with the imposter syndrome here, like of the whole team, you also want to incorporate that impact that you guys make as a team?
I believe that is important also. So I believe that the impact that we have has to be measured not only in the products and services that we supply, but in everything that we do as a team. And with the growth of the team now, we're 10, tomorrow will be 20, 30, 100, we don't know. But how can we make, and if your product can in some way, or if you have another solution, of course, can help us measure the impact that we have overall.
Actually, a super nice point you're raising here. Our solution not yet necessarily measures the impact of like the person. So can like solve the imposter syndrome, so to say. What we do is, obviously, as a company, you're not only your products, although 90% of the impact is in the products, so therefore you start there. But obviously there's an impact as well once you, I don't know, do business travel, commute. We talked about our own ESG app. Do you recycle your waste? Don't you do it? That's all things you could include in the end in the company impact. What we do is we do have like office impact, so all the supplies you buy, that's also incorporated in the company overview impact, as well as the commuting impact you make. Do you go by bike? Do you go by train? Do you go by plane to work? I don't know, business travels. All of that is included. So as a person measuring your company impact, you can make a difference. Although I want to say it is small compared to the product impact. So regarding that imposter syndrome, once you assess your products and you make sure you produce it the best way possible, you use the most sustainable materials possible, you have the longest length of their lives as possible, you might feel a bit better about yourself as well.
Thank you. We have time for one online question.
Yeah, okay. So I'll just ask here, if we're lacking standardization in the way impact is measured, how can the metrics represent the same information? And another question that came to Ruth's mind, who's the person who asked this, is if we're lacking that standardization, how can the tools that exist, like ESG, B Corp certification, represent something that, one, is not standardized, and two, is based on the input the company provides without any audit?
Wow, where to start? I can assess it obviously from an environmental perspective, but not from the other ones. I think once again, this is a big struggle in the measurement world. There's lots of standards out there. For instance, our methodology follows a certain ISO standard. It's not set in stone on its own. So answering the second question, I would argue transparency. It's okay to start with proxies. If you don't have the data available, it's okay to start there once you're transparent about it. Then for the first question, I think there's more and more regulations coming up, or certifications coming up that try to standardize that in a way. So for the building industry, for instance, there are some certificates that standardize the environmental impact assessment. There's environmental product declarations that also are a declaration that one could like compare one-to-one to another product while making a choice of using product X or product Y. But I think there's still lots of work to do, and to be honest, there's no solution out there yet when it comes to environmental impact assessment, I would say.
I have a small comment on that. I don't know if there's any accountants in the room here or online or wherever, but I think a lot of us that don't come from a financial perspective, when we look at a balance sheet or an income statement, we say, oh, that's clear cut, right? That's income, that's revenue, that's the cost. But the reality is that's also a construct. It's something that 200 years ago, there was no consensus on what that was. Quality assurance in food industry. That was created maybe 150 years ago. I don't know the number, but it was something that was constructed that with transparency over time was built up. So we also can't expect that ESG or IMP or whatever framework you decide to use is going to be established in 20 years, in 10 years. So it's something that we have to build up. And even today, there's things that are creative accounting, things that can be considered revenue, things that are costs, or should we put that in this company or this company? Like, these things are flexible. The important thing is to understand that you're driving towards more transparency and more consensus, and that's built up gradually.
Yeah.
Thank you. We'll finish this panel now. Lisbon?
Yeah,
We'll
okay.
finish there.
So thank you. I want to thank all the panelists and our moderator in Porto, so a big round of applause for them. So just before we wrap up our drinks, I just want to give some notes on programs that are going on in the ecosystem and that might be relevant for you. So YMCA Startup is a new social impact incubator. So they will be promoting a boot camp that will take place in June 4th and 5th in Setúbal. So if you want to know more, the registrations are open. You can search for ymcasetubal.org. Also, Polish Ignite is a new acceleration program that opened recently. You can apply until March 3rd, and you can know more information at lishpolish.pt. And also, this year's edition of Mel Empresas 5G Challenge is open. The applications are open, and you can also apply from the 1st of March, I guess. Yes, sure, yeah. Okay, so these are our last remarks. So if you want to know more about impact, you can always contact all of our panelists. You can know more about them in our social media. If you want to know more about our programs, you can follow us on our social media and newsletter to know more. And so thank you, everyone, and let's go for a drink and continue our talk. Okay, bye-bye.